Unfit to be a mother. Those were the words my ex-husband, Daniel, spoke before the family court judge on Monday morning. He stood beside his attorney in a dark blue suit, hair neatly combed, voice confident, his face wearing the same calm expression he always put on before telling a lie. I sat at the other table with my attorney, Sarah. My fingers were wrapped around a paper cup of cold coffee left over from the night before, and my heart was beating so hard I thought the entire courtroom could hear it. Without looking at me, Daniel said, "She only cares about her career. Our daughter has never been her priority." I opened my mouth to respond, but Sarah gently touched my wrist and stopped me. "Let him talk," she whispered. "The records will answer for you." Judge Margaret Hall looked at Daniel over the top of her glasses, then opened the thick file in front of her. My whole life was inside it. My employment records, my salary, Emma's school attendance, doctor visits, the CPS report, and even the nights I had spent years refusing to talk about. Daniel thought he could use my success against me. I was an operations manager at a medical company. I sometimes worked late and I had received a raise the previous year. To him that was enough to paint me as cold, selfish, and absent. But he had no idea which page the judge was about to reach. 3 years earlier, when Emma was 5, my life didn't look like this. We lived in a 2-story house in a quiet Ohio suburb. There was a small lawn out front, Emma's pink bicycle stayed in the garage, and on Friday evenings, we went to Target for the week's groceries. From the outside we looked like a normal family. Inside that house I spent every night watching the clock. 9, 10, 11. Daniel would say he was going out with his friends for one drink. Then the door would open at 2 in the morning, his keys would hit the floor and I would hear him stumbling up the stairs. The next morning he would tell me, "You make everything into a bigger deal than it is." I kept telling myself the same thing. Maybe he was under pressure at work. Maybe it was only a phase. Maybe a good wife was supposed to tolerate certain things to keep her family together. But those certain things slowly became our entire life. One Thursday I was working late. Daniel was supposed to pick Emma up from dance class. At 7:20 her instructor called me. "Emma is still here. Is someone coming to get her?" I immediately called Daniel. No answer. I rushed out of the office, grabbed coffee at a drive-thru because my eyes were burning with exhaustion, and reached the studio 40 minutes later. Emma was sitting near the front desk with her little bag in her lap. When she saw me, she only asked, "Did Daddy fall asleep again?" That question went straight into my chest. When I got home, Daniel was passed out on the couch. An empty bottle sat on the table, the television was still playing, and his phone was lying on the floor. That was the first night I took pictures of his bottles. Not as evidence. Maybe just to convince myself that what I was seeing was real. A few months later things became worse. One evening, Daniel took Emma to Walmart. On the way home he drove the car over the side of the road and onto the curb. No one was injured, but the police officer gave him a breathalyzer test. His blood alcohol level was well above the legal limit. Emma was crying in the back seat. When the police called me, I drove to the station wearing a coat over my pajamas. Emma was holding the little doll she had gotten from the store. The package was still sealed. She clung to me and kept saying, "Mommy, Daddy's eyes looked strange." Daniel was charged with DUI. He promised he would get treatment. I gave him one final chance, then another, until that final chance became a long line of chances. Rehabilitation programs, empty apologies, hidden bottles, angry outbursts. When I filed for divorce, he said, "You can't take Emma away from me. I'll tell everyone what kind of mother you really are." At the time I thought he was only angry. Then he actually did it. He told Emma's school that I neglected her. He filed a complaint with CPS claiming that I left her alone all night. A social worker came to our home without warning. My legs were shaking even though I knew I had done nothing wrong. She checked the refrigerator, examined Emma's bedroom, and interviewed us separately. Emma told her that our neighbor, Mrs. Carter, picked her up from school whenever I had to work late and that I always came home before dinner. CPS found the allegations unsubstantiated and closed the case. Still, Daniel brought up that complaint in court as though it had resulted in a proven finding against me. Sarah had carefully preserved everything. School records, medical receipts, my company's flexible hours agreement, childcare payments, and the calendar listing every one of Emma's appointments. My career report also showed that when I accepted my promotion, I turned down the travel responsibilities so I could stay close to Emma. The judge looked up from the file and asked Daniel, You claim the defendant is unavailable for her daughter, but according to these records, you have not attended a single school meeting or medical appointment in the past 2 years. Is that correct? Daniel glanced at his attorney. I wasn't informed about them. Sarah immediately stood. Your Honor, we have 46 emails and 22 text messages in which he was given the dates and times. The courtroom fell silent. The judge opened the next folder. It contained Daniel's record of alcohol abuse. 1 DUI, missed court-ordered treatment sessions, a probation violation and 2 police reports. I didn't even know about one of those reports. 6 months after our divorce, during one of his weekends with Emma, he had left her alone in his apartment and gone to a bar. At 1 in the morning, a neighbor found Emma crying in the hallway and called the police. Daniel had told me Emma went to sleep early and that they had enjoyed a wonderful weekend together. Sarah had obtained the real police report through a subpoena only 1 week before the hearing. My breath caught in my throat. I looked toward the courtroom doors, knowing Emma was waiting in the children's room outside, and for the first time, I understood why she had slept in my bed for several nights after that weekend. Daniel's face went pale. His attorney leaned closer and whispered something in his ear, but there was nothing left to explain. The judge closed the file. This court does not punish a parent for having a successful career, especially when the evidence shows that she has provided her child with a stable, safe, and loving home. By contrast, the petitioner concealed his alcohol abuse, misled this court and placed a minor child in danger. Then came the words I had spent 2 years staying awake, fighting and saving money to hear. Full legal and physical custody of Emma was awarded to me. Daniel was granted supervised visitation only, and even that was conditional upon completing treatment and submitting to regular sobriety tests. I didn't cry, at least not inside the courtroom. I simply closed my eyes and took a long breath. Outside the courtroom, Emma was waiting for me in her blue jacket. She asked, "Are we going home?" I knelt, wrapped my arms around her and said, "Yes. We're going home now." On the way back we stopped at the same drive-thru where I used to buy coffee on the worst nights of my life. I ordered coffee for myself and hot chocolate for her. That evening we sat together on the couch, switched on the cheap fairy lights we had bought at Target and played her favorite movie. My phone stayed face down on the table. 3 messages came from Daniel followed by 2 calls. I answered none of them. Emma rested her head on my shoulder and fell asleep within minutes. For the first time the house was quiet without that silence feeling frightening. I gently ran my hand over her hair, drank the last cold sip of coffee and remained there in the darkened room, exhausted, wounded, but no longer buried beneath someone else's lies. If this story touched your heart, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories of courage, truth, and new beginnings. Your support helps us continue sharing voices that deserve to be heard. Thank you sincerely for watching until the end, and for being part of this growing community.